Good afternoon, everybody. Yat She'e Heather Fleming Yenishye, and I am the Executive Director of Change Labs in Tuba City. Thank you all for joining us for our third discussion on how COVID-19 is affecting Navajo small businesses. Before we get started today, I wanted to take this opportunity to tell you all a little bit more about Change Labs and the work that we do across Navajo and Hopi. So in a nutshell, we provide creative workspace tools, resources, knowledge for Native entrepreneurs. And the number one thing that people come to us with is this question: how do I start a business? This is what we specialize in. So if this is you, we would love to talk with you. And I'll show you some of the resources that we have to offer to the community. First and foremost, anytime that you want to talk to one of our business coaches, we are available right now, just on Mondays. We have appointments available all day between 11 and 5. They're 90-minute appointments, whatever you want to talk about. You know, if you're having trouble with the business site lease, if you're looking for grant opportunities or loan opportunities, you're trying to figure out how to register on the Navajo Nation, there's a link here, nativestartup.org/events, to book an appointment with one of our mini coaches. Another program that I really emphasize to all of you is our business incubator. So if you're in the first 2 years of starting your business and you feel like you need some support, some coaching, some training on finances, on marketing, or you need help with logo and website design, our business incubator is run by my colleague, Jessica Stago, and it's a 12-month program that lays out all the foundations for starting and running your business on Navajo or Hopi. Applications for the program are going to open again in February 2022, and you can learn more about it at our website, nativestartup.org/incubator. And then I will post a link to this in just a second, but I also encourage everybody to check out our YouTube channel. 35 plus videos is totally wrong. I think it's like 60 at this point, but we are recording all kinds of sessions like this all the time, discussions with Navajo business owners, workshops run by Native people, Native creatives, marketing experts, business model experts, tax experts, and all of that content is available to you if you have questions about. I feel like we have a lot of different topics up there, everything related from leadership all the way to like tax compliance. So it's a great resource. You can find it at nativestartup.org/resources, but I'm also going to put it in our chat window here in just a second. If you have any more questions, I'm also joined by my colleague today. She's off to the side. You can't see her, but Marcia Gray Eyes. She's our point person for the community, and here's her email. And again, there's our email address. Some other quick things that you should know is that this is a dialogue, and we would love to hear your voices. We love to hear what you have to say about the report, about the analysis, about the conversations around how Navajo businesses are impacted and how ARPA money should be prioritized. We have reserved time at the end of the panel discussion today for Q&A with the audience. If you want to speak, just please raise your little Zoom hand. There should be a little icon near the bottom of your Zoom screen that says raise hand. You can also type your questions or your ideas either in the Q&A window or the chat window at any time. And then also keep in mind that today's session is being recorded and it's going to be up on our YouTube channel probably in the next 48 hours. The last thing I'll say is I encourage all of you to join us for our last dialogue, which is scheduled for next Wednesday. We should have a representative from the Navajo Nation Division of Economic Development, where we'll talk about how all of the dialogues that we've done to date, so tourism, food and hospitality, today's discussion on professional service providers, artisans, and retailers, all of these business owners have given us feedback on what they think is most important when it comes to ARPA priorities. We want to take what they're saying and then give that feedback to Navajo Nation DED and also understand, what are their priorities for ARPA? How are they thinking about it? And do those two align, or does there need to be more discussion between the business community and our government officials who are making these decisions? So please do join us for that. There is the link to sign up for that last dialogue. And with that, I put Navajo tourism. I'm sorry, that's a typo. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Raymar at Causal Design to give you a brief introduction to the study if you haven't read it yet. And then when he's finished with his presentation, we'll have a panel discussion between two fantastic Navajo business owners we've invited to join us today. It'll be moderated by my colleague, Jessica Stago. And while we're in the panel discussion, I'm going to be running a series of polls. We love to get information from this audience on what sorts of resources you've been able to tap into since this pandemic started, or maybe what resources you haven't been able to tap into. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, we'll close with Q&A with the entire audience. So with that, I am going to hand this over to my colleague, Raymar.
There we go. Oh, great. Thank you so much, Heather, for the introduction. My name is Raymar Macaranis, and I was one of the researchers involved with the analysis of the impacts of COVID-19 on Navajo small businesses. For those of you who made it to the earlier sessions, this should be a similar summary that I had done before, but do bear with me, as it is good to go through kind of the findings of the report as they give us kind of a foundation for the panel discussion that we have today. So again, the work that we're presenting today reflects the combined efforts of Causal Design, Change Labs, and the Navajo Nation Division of Economic Development. Very quickly, Causal Design is a research organization whose mission is to create cultures of evidence. And we've been proud to have Change Labs as a partner, as they invest working in to both nurture and support Navajo entrepreneurs and small businesses in order to give back to their community. So the report that we're discussing today, next slide, please. The report today is really one of several that we've engaged with Change Labs, the small business community, as well as other stakeholders in business and government, all with the aim of contributing to the effort of trying to create an environment where all Navajo can build a livelihood and thrive. In terms of the objectives, next slide, please. When we're trying to understand and unpack the ways that COVID impacted the Navajo Nation, our analysis was guided by three specific study questions. So, that first really gets at the heart of, how did COVID-19 impact the Navajo small business community, and how does it continue to? That's, for a lot of folks here, that's an evolving question. The second really hones in on, what actions can the Navajo tribal government take to support the immediate recovery of that business community and ensure that the support stays within the Navajo ecosystem? And finally, how can Navajo policymakers guard against returning to the status quo and really use this moment as an opportunity to create something that's more forward-thinking, something sustainable and focused on kind of longer term growth. In terms of our methodology, on the next slide, please, Causal Design and Change Labs sat down with DED to really understand what information was readily available and what analysis could be undertaken. So based on this back and forth, the final methodology would evolve to rely on a combination of these two approaches here, this small business deep dive and market mapping. Now, the market mapping exercise tries to look at the different sectors and the constraints or the challenges that each sector is focused on. And what I mean by that is illustrated on the next slide. You'll see here kind of what this market mapping exercise looks like, where we look at really, what's affecting the ability for businesses to get supplies and inputs, and then how then they're able to maintain regular operations and reach their customers or clients. And I think I might have skipped it over, but in conjunction with this kind of higher level strategy, we also did deep dive one-on-one interviews with small business owners themselves. And what we wanted to do there is marry these two pieces together, right? Where we have this high level understanding of what's happening across the sector, how businesses are impacted broadly, and trying to pair that against what seems to be happening individually with folks to try to make sure we're painting the right picture and really getting an understanding of what seems to be going on as businesses cope with COVID-19. Next slide, please. So, with that, we'll talk a little bit about the main takeaways of the report, and before jumping into some specific recommendations. So the first main takeaway is really quite obvious. I mean, it cannot be understated the level of the deep personal and human impact that the pandemic has had on community and social systems. The pandemic has taken away so much in that regard. And so when we take this lens and then refocus it just on the small business community, what we see is that ability to cope and bounce back is limited in part by what we see as a disconnect with both formal and informal support networks. And I'm not trying to point the finger anywhere specifically, but what we found is that when we did our interviews, when we had these discussions, it was clear that most individual business owners didn't really know where to go to get business, financial, and industry level advice or recommendations, and that a lot of that support network just wasn't there. So to us, what this points to is more of a disconnect that then varies by sector, and it's a disconnect where either traditional support mechanisms, whether they're business or trade associations or public sector business support agencies, they're either not known to the general public, or what they're doing may be so focused or limited that it doesn't provide blanket support to everyone. So what we really want to point out is that this lack of support network gets exacerbated by what's going on with the next slide, where we know that on Navajo Nation, let's see, next slide, please, Heather. That doing business on the Navajo Nation isn't that there's no secret that the processes and the regulations on the Navajo Nation are cumbersome to a lot of business owners. However, things that might have been maybe minor inconveniences before, when we're in this constrained environment, become amplified and multiplied in ways that make it extremely difficult to stay open, or they just pile on to other things that are really big challenges right now. And this bleeds into other areas where access to support systems may be kept behind rules and regulations and processes that really need to be streamlined. Because what we know is that when the government does come in and help, and we'll see this on the next slide, when we do see that support is delivered, it's both vital and critical to the businesses that receive them, where we see these financial resources provide the means to stay open, to keep employees hired, and really weather the challenges that they're facing. And it can't be understated, it cannot really be overstated that the support makes a real difference. But it's also clear, as illustrated in the next slide, that small businesses face compounding challenges. The challenges are complicated and solutions differ by sector, making it hard to find kind of a one-size-fits-all answer. And it makes it unlikely that cash alone is going to get the small business economy back on its feet. So in light of that, we've come to a set of recommendations. And those are captured on this slide here. And they're what we feel are some short-term and long-term solutions that can be helpful, and categorize them in these different buckets. So that first is on improving the business environment. And so we have a couple bullet points here. And the first is thinking about how to improve the business environment in this current context. And what stands out is trying to address as much of that uncertainty as possible so that businesses can better plan. And that means communicating about what it means to reopen, to stay open, and to maintain this ability to continue that livelihood. But it also means potentially sharing other external costs of reopening. And we've seen in other contexts the roles of tourism or industry boards or associations in trying to coordinate on behalf of that sector as a whole to signal to the rest of the world that the business community is ready to engage. In one of our earlier discussions, we had someone from with Navajo tourism to talk about sort of some of these services that they can provide and how this is something we think that is really critical because individual businesses can't do it alone. But this is going to vary by sector, and who is going to be that support mechanism is going to vary as well. And finally, going back to one of the findings that we had flagged earlier, one recommendation is to take steps to create more of that support network into the business community as a whole. And this might mean diverting more resources to either, the chamber, or expanding mandates to other agencies, or providing more robust kind of industry groups and associations to fill in some of these gaps. With the next set of bullet points, we focused on providing direct support to business. And by that, I mean, what are some of the more immediate needs that need to be met? And what we focus on here are the mechanisms in place to deliver that support. So, it's clear that things need to be done now, but how we get that to individual business owners is really important, because ensuring that those systems, that those processes are streamlined, that they're easy to access and have dedicated support for users engaging them will really be needed, especially when you're going to create new systems for accessing funds. And I think that was definitely one of the goals that DED had in delivering the CARES Act funding, and something that they're continually thinking about in terms of improving and making sure that that's accessible to as many people as possible. And the final recommendation here is about thinking creatively about alternative places that businesses may also receive additional capacity and support, and having policy or decision makers create ways to make those partnerships available, whether it's through existing organizations or partners in university. Now, thinking specifically about sector level support. Oh, sorry, can you go back one, Heather? Yeah, thanks. So when thinking about the sector level support, when we're thinking about artisans and the retail sector specifically, we do think of them as a very supply and material reliant sector. And so the ability to get access to inputs, to the materials and the raw inputs that you need in both a timely and affordable manner will be a real major concern to these businesses and operations. So in this case, additional financial support may be even more critical given just the kind of the state of the economy right now. So then addressing long-term business resilience on this final point, we want to think about how do we make these improvements long-term and sustainable? And, here we're focused on addressing kind of the more embedded processes, right, for accessing information or government services. And in many cases, addressing access means improving or streamlining these processes, and then enshrining them in more modern and digital infrastructure so that it improves the business environment as a whole, right? So, we want to both make these processes easier, more intuitive, so that businesses don't have to invest as much just to meet these requirements, and then take that step further, make it modernized, make it so that way we're further taking advantage of technology. But of course, this modernization relies on a big assumption, and that assumption is that we have improved or expanded access to broadband, and really that shouldn't be taken for granted, and it really should go hand in hand with some of these efforts. So these four areas here kind of represent higher level insights from the report, but I'm excited to transition to more specific discussion and conversation with our panelists today to explore a bit more about how businesses within this sector have overcome or continue to manage these challenges. So with that, I'll pass it back to Change Labs, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Raymar. Next, we have our panel discussion moderated by my colleague, Jessica Stago. And if you give me a minute, I am going to bring all the panelists into view. Fantastic. I think that's all of them. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Jessica, to take it from here. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Heather. And also thank you, Raymar. Really excited to be here. Thank you, everybody, for attending the workshop. And thank you to the panelists for also being here to share your stories with us. Really excited to have the conversation today and to speak with these entrepreneurs about this, what's been happening with the pandemic and how it's impacted your business, and also just kind of have a conversation about, some of the solutions that Raymar went over that were outlined in the report. So, let me go ahead and introduce myself, and then I'll also just go ahead and let Abiegail introduce herself as well. My name is Jessica Stago. I'm the Director of Business Incubation at Change Labs, and I live in Winslow, Arizona, although today I'm coming to you from Albuquerque. So that's where I'm at today. Abiegail, would you like to go ahead and just introduce yourself and let us know about your business?
Good afternoon. My name is Abiegail Yazzie, and I'll introduce myself in Navajo. She'eya Abiegail Yazzie Yinshia Batani Dene Nshle Do Kendle Chini Kisani Dene Bashishchin Nahobani Dene Dashiche. Tana Bilni Dene Dashanale with Ego a son in Nishle Shijone E Ray Wolya.
And the name of your business?
Okay, I'm the Chief Leadership Officer for Hodishooh Specialty Maintenance Incorporated.
Yeah, thank you. And it looks like we do have Patricia on the line as well. Patricia, would you like to introduce yourself? Oh, she's still connecting to audio. So let me go ahead and give her a couple of minutes to connect, and then we can come back to her. But yeah, Shade, thank you, Abiegail, for being here today. I'll go ahead and get into the first question, and then when Patricia gets on, she can introduce herself. And so we'll go ahead and just ask you, Abiegail, the first question, which is that, we know that the pandemic affected people, the health of the people, and put so many people in danger, and our communities had to live through that. But we also know, aside from, your businesses maybe having to close for a time, what are some of the other impacts that the pandemic had on your business in terms of it being a services business, and also, the cleaning business that you have?
We are in an unprecedented time. Uncertainty are gripping on the Navajo small businesses. The economy on the Navajo reservation, I think, came to a complete stop. It was so weird to see all the gas stations, convenience stores, grocery stores, restaurants closed daily at 7 p.m. I seen it in Shiprock. I seen that in Kayenta. I seen that in Window Rock. They were closed on weekdays at 7 and throughout the weekend. And I think in that area, there's a lot of Navajos that travel to the border town to get supplies. So I have the core business. We have a maintenance service. However, our core services is housekeeping, custodial service. And that's what we were doing when we got the news. I have experience. I worked for the federal government, the IHS, for 31 years. And I seen this kind of virus, but they call it SARS, in 2003 when I was working at Gallup Indian Medical Center. It mostly affected the pediatric patients. So when I heard about this, I went ahead and developed my policies. And I also distribute these to my customers throughout the reservations on disinfectant that we're going to use and how we're going to be doing the cleaning. And that I distribute those on December the 3rd, 2020. And the Navajo Nation started taking action, I believe it was the middle of March. So we went from cleaning to disinfection service. That is how we stayed afloat. When we heard about positive cases in the facilities that we were already contracting or already cleaning, is where we stepped up and we started disinfecting. We gave out the chemicals, the SDS on those chemicals that we're using. And we ran out of supplies very quickly. I could not find gowns. I could not find rubber gloves. Mm-hmm. So we had to improvise. Being a reservation, growing up on a reservation, we used trash bags to use them as our gowns. And we used Navajo, people were already starting sewing masks. So we bought masks. So that's how we started going. Our cleaning service stopped in certain areas because of the executive order that came out of the Navajo Nation, the executive order 002-2. The state of emergency is that they wanted to close all the Navajo Nation government offices. And that's where we lost a lot of revenue. But where we picked up is when we started doing the disinfection. However, that was good, but then we ran low on supplies that we needed.
Yeah, I think that happened along for everybody, for all of the sectors that we interviewed. They talked about supplies being very low and not being able to find those supplies. I suspect that's probably the same with Patricia's business. Maybe Patricia, could you tell us a little bit about your experience with going through the pandemic in terms of your business operations? And also go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, Yate, my name is Pat. I'm currently the owner of the Way Salon here at Kienta. And I went through a lot. Being a self-employed, self-employed business owner of a small business was kind of rough for me. But this year, 2021, when we reopened, it was really slow from the beginning. And we're barely starting to pick up now. So the struggles is, as a matter of fact, maybe a couple of weeks back, I was telling Christine that there's a possibility I might go ahead and close my salon in the end. But I'm doing the best I can to keep it open. Because first of all, when 2000, before the pandemic, I had a full staff. I had a massage therapist, I had a nail tech, I had 4 stylists. So currently today, we're just down to 2, myself as a stylist and another, a gentleman that works for me. So we've been, then I also employ I used to just do 1 or 2 receptionists or just 1 receptionist. But with the pandemic, it really made a change because I needed more receptionists. I personally couldn't run the register. I couldn't run the register myself because of the cleansing, staying clean. So I had to hire a receptionist. And then it looked like I needed to hire 2 receptionists because one needed to be cleaning, the other needed to handle the money and make sure everything else was still afloat and answering the phone. So that's how we started. And we weren't making the money. We weren't making the money to take care of these employees because of the restrictions. Had to, and I've been struggling ever since. But finally, November and December, things started kind of changing a little bit, and it seems like I'm playing catch up on everything that I wasn't able to pay for, and I'm running into like corners that I can't. And I pay cash for everything. I don't have credit cards, so I try to know that I run my business off of what I make, and if I don't make it, I shouldn't be here. So I set a goal for myself for the business itself. I talked to my employees, and I told them this is the way it is. This is the way the salon runs, and if I can't find stylists, then I'm not able to run a business on just 2 stylists. And I explained to my employees that if things don't pick up and things don't change, I will be closing my salon here at the shopping center because it costs me a pretty penny just being here. We sell products, we sell jewelry, we sell makeup. I even started adding to the salon. We started doing to try to compensate for try to make money in other ways. So I added floral, artificial flowers, and then I also bought a refrigerator so I can try to invest in getting some live flowers and making flower arrangements. And we're doing gift wrapping. We just barely started promoting that. So there's a lot that I'm trying to, I'm challenging myself through the month of December to catch up on everything that I was behind on. So if I can't meet my financial obligation, I made a decision that I will close my salon here. But prior to being here 9 years in the shopping center, I used to run my salon out of my home. And when we bought our trailer, I'm divorced. So when we bought our trailer, I had a room built in my home as a salon before they delivered the trailer. So I can actually go back there and just utilize that all over again. But the thing is, my business has really grown as far as like additional stuff. My products on my shelves is pretty heavy, and I've got more coming in, and I worked this past weekend, and I'll be working Saturdays and Sundays. We're open Tuesday to Friday to Saturday, normal hours 10 to 6. But myself, I've always worked 6 to 7 days a week. And right now, I committed myself to work the 7 days a week through the whole month of December, just to try to come out of this with a clean slate starting January. If I can't do it, then I don't want to keep building my financial mess. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Patricia. Do you believe that, and this is for both of you, that there's business support out there for you? You both seem to see an opportunity that's still there in terms of having a business, but do you feel like there's enough support there for your businesses, and what kind of support, is that support being utilized, or do you think that's just, it's not actually there?
It's for me, see, I've been doing hair for 30 years, 30 plus years.
Uh-huh.
And I have a good record. And I started in a salon in Gallup for 10 years. And I went to school at UNM, and I came back to Kayenta, and I did house calls, and I billed myself. And then I started out of my home, and then I got married, and then we built this trailer. Like I said, and 18 years out of that trailer, I did it. And then I came. I was going to be here at the shopping center prior, but it was a salon before me. It was here for 7 years, but the gentleman decided to try it one more year. So I went back and I went to school at San Juan, and I got my barber's license and my instructor's license for cosmetology. So I was teaching over there, and then it reopened to me to me the shopping center. So I did my business plan and I did everything. I did a presentation, and that's how I ended up here. But yes and no. Okay, so from the beginning, my support were my children. They were my sole support. They did everything. I had two of my girls are cosmetologists, but they have their own home now, and they have their own family, so they moved away. And I had to learn how to do everything myself. But as far as people like clients and people in general town, they know who I am. And apparently throughout the years, I have built myself a name or something, and I never recognized that before, really, actually, until this past year or right before the pandemic. Mm-hmm. My clients were, acknowledging me and telling me, we are so happy you're here. We are so glad you're here. So I know for a fact the business is really, really needed. But my problem is that I just don't have stylists that I don't have the stylists for the business this year because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Is there massages because of the pandemic?
Is there a resource that you think could help you to get that is there a resource out there that might, in terms of the community itself, like it could be either the township or the chapter or the government in some way, or even maybe community college that you feel like you could tap into to help you with that, with not having the talent or the people there to hire?
I don't know, because they're always on my case about the finances. I'm behind on a lot of things here. Apparently, I'm not the only one. As a matter of fact, my electricity was $2,600, and I had to come up with half of it as of yesterday. So that's why I said, okay, but I had committed myself already last month that I was going to pay off everything that I know I owe, which isn't really that much. But for some people, I'm sure. But for me, because I'm a sole owner, I have to do, I don't know, as a business owner.
You're doing everything.
As a business owner, a lot of businesses.
You do everything.
Yeah, as a business owner, they do everything, yes, but they're not standing behind a chair. They're not the ones bringing in the money. They're over here handling, putting everything on the shelf, making sure everything's run smooth. Yeah, they're there 24/7. But for me, I'm standing behind a chair making the money to pay my employees.
Yeah.
If I'm not standing behind that chair, nobody gets paid.
Okay.
So, but I just don't have enough employees to stand behind a chair to help me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But as far as asking for assistance, like from township, they're on me already. I already know I'm up to, I don't know what with them, and then Navajo Nation Shopping Center, they usually talk to me and I talk to them. I can really communicate with them, and they help me a couple times through this year. Okay. But it's just certain things that I'm not making enough money to get through, but I'm optimistic. I really believe and truly believe that December I will come out of it.
Well, it sounds like that you can't think of any like specific resource that can help you, but like you said, there's several things that need to happen.
Exactly.
Abiegail, let me ask Abiegail the same question. If you feel like there's resources available for your business right now that you're tapping into.
Oh, yes. Patricia, there is a lot of resources out there. There are many, many Navajo businesses.
I hear that. You know what?
Let me complete this. There are desperately needed the funds Because we have payroll, I have payroll. I pay my payroll taxes. I pay the state holdings for all the staff. I pay my unemployment taxes. I stay on top of all those. I have savings on the side in case something like this happens. I mean, we're told that something's going to happen. You always got to have 3 months of savings. Well, I learned that. But I think it's more, you need to save more than 3 months. So I seen it. So because we have payroll taxes, we pay payrolls, all my records are in order. So I applied for that Paycheck Protection Program. And I'm very thankful to get that. However, I did not qualify for the Navajo Cares business grant because I was told that I already received the personal protective program, that I got a grant from the PPP, but you still have to submit your documents for your payroll for them to do the forgiveness. So I did that. So thank God my first PPP grant has been forgiven. Only because we have the records in order. The payroll are all numbered, filed, payroll taxes are paid because they want copies of those. They want copies of those 941s that were filed with the IRS. They want copies of that. They want copies from the state, what you paid on the unemployment taxes. So because I had those records, that's how I qualify for these. I just don't understand why the Navajo Nation didn't want to help, because we paid taxes to them for so many years, and we were not given any grant. So I was still told to apply, but then they shut down early. Our name is in the system, but it was never completed because of the PPP. And I know that right now, from what I'm looking at, what I'm seeing, the thing here is that I have a lot of business friends. I have a second office in Denver, Colorado. So I have business partners there. I have people that's been in business for a long time that I tap into them. And there's a lot of resources out there. So I go and see what other grants I can apply for. I don't want to apply for a loan. So I'm looking for grants that I can apply for. So that's what I'm doing. And when we were doing disinfection, traveling just through the Navajo Nation, like we did Nazlini boarding school, there's no motel, but it's a long ways from from our office in Bloomfield. I think it was like 5 hours away. And our trucks are diesel, and there's no diesel fuel except back to Sabanito, the only one that was open because Window Rock's all closed. You can't get into the motel because you have to have essential letters for your staff to get in, but then there's no food. The restaurants are closed right there at the Window Rock, that Navajo Nation or Navajo Land Inn, right where they have the Denny's. We stayed there, but the restaurant was closed. We only make coffee in our room, and the only thing we got from the front office was just one package of muffins. So when I saw that, we came back. We did I believe it was a 5-day job there. We came back and we had to go back to the drawing board and say, I don't think this virus is going to go away. We need to come up with something. So what I had to do was that I had to sell my condo in Denver and put that money towards an RV. So I can drive my office and my kitchen, my bed around, because there was nothing available on the Navajo Nation. I mean, there's no motel, there's no restaurant. You got to carry extra, diesel fuel on you in case something happens. We were prepared for that. We even hauled generator with us in case something happens. I mean, we had to build all these extended landing on the back of the vehicles for those. So there's a lot of things that we did to stay in business, to travel through the Navajo reservation, at the same time try to help the Navajo people. We took a risk. It was a lot of risk because we were going into facilities where employees test positive.
Yeah.
We seen that, and some of them don't tell you that they had, like, maybe there's one facility that we went into had 8 positive cases.
Wow.
We took a risk, and we wiped down everything and we sprayed. But the main thing is that I learned how to put the personal protective equipment. I was the supervisor for that when I have my staff put those on and when they take it off. So I was very strict in that area. So there's a lot of things that we did, but see, those are some of the things I look at now, because Navajo Nation got money that they're going to pay the frontline workers that were working at the donation or the chapters. And I was asking about, what about like Navajo businesses like mine? We were frontline workers. We went out into your offices when you evacuated because there was a positive case. We went in there and disinfected the whole office. Why can't those kind of Navajo business get these fundings for the hazardous pay? So that's my other thing that I'm looking at. So I know there's more than 50% of the Navajo business that were negatively impacted by COVID, and maybe 40% had decline in revenue. Our revenue declined, but we're not depleted of funds, which I'm thankful for. I took this very serious because we lost our mom in May 2020. And she was healthy. And that's when I really thought, and I really came down to my staff and I said, this is very serious. My mom was healthy and the virus just took her. She fought, she really did fight, but still, I said, this is very serious. You guys need to double glove, do whatever you can. If you have long hair, tie it up somewhere so you're not touching yourself. And then your phone, don't touch your phones when you're working. Just leave it outside until you're done with the disinfection. When you're done washing your hands, and you can go answer your phone, because we cannot take a risk. So those are some of the things that I really stood strong on those. And a lot of these closing the Navajo government offices did really affect a lot of people. And then closing the National Park Service recreation areas really did affect people that were selling jewelries. I seen that at Canyon de Chelly. So the CARES Act for the Navajo Business and Artisan Economic Relief Grant was $29 million. And I understand there's 4,000 businesses that got the money. We didn't get any. So the next one that's coming up, the Navajo Nation Fiscal Recovery Fund expenditure plan right now, under the economic development, they're giving $90 million, which is almost like 2/3 more of the money they receive from CARES Act. So hopefully,
Abiegail,
yes.
what first I do want to say I'm very sorry to hear about the loss of your mom. And it must have been really tough to go through that and be trying to, keep your business and your business in place, as well as worrying about the safety of your employees. And I wish that there was more of a support system in place for the businesses, especially businesses like yours. And like you said, some of the ideas you had around the hazard pay and things like that. But if we're going into this next year with the Fiscal Recovery Act, what do you think is vital for those funds to be for people who are managing those funds? Like, what should they know about how to get this funding into your businesses, both your business as well as Patricia's business?
After applying for certain grants, I have seen the criteria. The Navajo Nation Business Economic Office needs to set up a criteria. So when you look at that, for my business, I can look at that and say, yes, I qualify for that. I'm eligible for that. Yes, I'm eligible for this. I'm not eligible for that. That will tell me that if I qualify for the loan or the grant that they have out. I think that's the most important thing. Instead of getting all their paperwork and then they say, oh, so you have payroll, so you pay payroll taxes. Well, you got money from PPP, you don't qualify. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be like that. They should have the criteria up front from the beginning.
Okay. So transparency in the criteria for being eligible for those services or for that funding. That I think that's helpful, and I think we do have that. We heard that from other types of businesses as well. So Patricia, did you have any last thoughts about any resources that you might need right now? What would you, if you could, maybe mention one thing that you need that could help you with your struggles right now in terms of keeping your business open? What would that be?
I don't know. It's really hard to say because everything I've done like pretty much on my own. People tell me, you should apply, you should do this, you should do that. Mm-hmm. There's what they tell me to do too, but I don't have time to. Honestly, I don't have time to sit at the computer all day, all night because the fact that I'm trying to keep up with what I'm trying to rebuild. Yeah. Because I know I can, whether I do it here at the shopping center or take it home. And I'm planning on, if I do take it home, I'm going to build my whole mobile home into a salon, and I find myself elsewhere to go.
So right now, Patricia, you're looking for stylists. You're looking for people to come work for you.
I went to the schools. I've done a lot. I mean, I'm also on the Chinley Cosmetology. I'm on the board advisory.
Okay.
And I reach out to everybody. I call the schools, UNM. I call San Juan. I went to. I actually went down to Winslow to the school over there, and I did a presentation about a month and a half ago. And I'm reaching out, looking. But it's not. The problem with that here in Kayenta is that I find that they don't have. They're probably out there, but they don't have no place to live, no place to stay. And then I offer my home. I offer them a place to stay and live with me. So, but I still do. There was a bite last year, before the pandemic, I had 2 of them living with me. But like I said, the pandemic took them back, where they don't want to be back to work for now. So I don't know if that fear is still there, if it's just here in Kayenta, or if it's like that everywhere in all salons. But some people do tell me it is in most salons still. But
Yeah.
I'm not complaining. The business is here. I mean, it's available. I mean, the business is here. It's really good. As a matter of fact, right now we're busy. But I wanted to take this hour to be able to be online with you guys. And it's
Well, we
always
appreciate it.
It's always a pull and tuck with me. What's important? What should I do it? Should I, But because I'm standing behind a chair, every client matters to me. So
Heather,
But as far as people tell me that there's that I should apply and look for I don't know how to write out somebody to write me out. My daughter, she got online last night. She says, I'm going to try a couple more times for you. And so I got denied a couple times. So I'm just like, no, I think I can deal with this. Yeah. Maybe somebody else needs the money more than I do.
Yeah.
That's my
well,
call.
I think that one of the points that the report came out was that it's not just money that businesses need. They also need, people need places to live. They need, if you're going to hire people, they have to have a place to live. They have to, so there's these bigger issues that really are outside of your control, but they do impact your business. And so, exactly. I appreciate you sharing that with us. Abiegail, did you want to share one last thing before we close up here?
Yes, I think we really need to look at the internet service on the Navajo reservation. My office is off the reservation in the border town. So when I go drive into the Navajo reservation, like if I have to do a 3-5 day job, I don't have internet service.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get internet service. So I'm looking at other internet services that they say it can work in rural area. And I just got my package this week. So I'm going to install that. And I'm going to drive out to Crown Point to see if it will work from there. If it doesn't work, yes, it should work somewhere past Kayenta. So that's the main thing, is that I need internet service because I get emails. And a lot of things needs to be done electronically. We shouldn't be walking the hard copy proposal down to Window Rock. That's so ridiculous at this age.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I want to change, that to really push that.
Thank you. I do think that so the biggest thing that we got out of the study, talking to all of these businesses in the different sectors, was sort of these main points of, one, our communities need to be built up to be business friendly, meaning there needs to be a internet service, good internet service in the communities. There needs to be, the infrastructure so people can build their homes, so they can work and live in the community that they want to be in, and that there could be a workforce available for the businesses, but also that businesses, there's a big lack of support for businesses, and exactly. I think that some of the issues that you both talked about today are issues that as a business you shouldn't have to be dealing with, but you do, because that's just the way things are right now. Like not having diesel available to you within, along your routes. That's something that other businesses need. And what happens is it increases your costs. So people outside the reservation or other businesses, they don't have to deal with those kind of costs. And so, it's definitely something that if we're going to become more independent of border towns, if we're going to build up our communities, these are things that need to be addressed. And I think the pandemic made it clear. And then it definitely was reinforced in the study and what entrepreneurs like yourselves told us in all of the different sectors. So I want to close up, and I do again just thank you both for sharing with us and spending this hour.
Say something with you real quick?
Sure.
Okay, so like I said, I'm doing everything I can to make this work for the business itself. It's not for me. It's for the community that I really believe that the salon needs to be here. And not just the community, but there's a lot of small towns, Chumbito, Denohozo, Shanto area, so communities around us that depend on us to be here. So regardless of how hard it is and how rough it is financially, I am doing everything I can to keep it here. And the last thing I want to do is move it back to my home, because it's so convenient for them to come here to the shopping center than to find their way to my place. And I live in a trailer court. That's where I was. They have found their way there, but it's more convenient for customers to come here.
Yeah.
But some of the things that I'm doing to try to improve and try to find is the internet. I utilize a lot of that internet. But for me, internet service is pretty good. So I have it at my home. I have it here. That's one thing I'm doing all in the evenings and the night, and constantly trying to find, throwing a sale out there. It might be last minute, but people will notice that eventually that we are here, that we do exist. There's a lot of people that still don't know that we exist, that live here in Kayenta. So it's amazing. But anyways, that, and then I got a call that really impressed me. Some gentleman from Denver called me and said that they chose the salon to do a presentation to the stylists out here. So I started inviting. I want to find out. This is, I guess, all of a sudden I realized today. I said, hey, this is one way I'm going to find out how many stylists we actually have on the reservation by bringing them together in my salon. This guy's doing a presentation. He's coming from Wisconsin. And I asked him, how did you find out about my business? How did you find out? Do you even know where you're coming and calling to? And he says, well, he says, you have a really good record on people comment and how your business is good from what I see. And it came up on our program, which salon should we go to? And you're one of them. I said, are you serious? I said, do you know where it's at? So the original presentation guy called me the other day, and I talked to him. And I said, do you know where you're coming to? He said, he thought he was coming somewhere to New Mexico. I said, you know what? You're coming to Arizona, to the Navajo Nation. And he said, what? I'm coming to the Navajo Nation? I said, yeah. I said, you're going to be the first probably ever to come on the Navajo Nation that's in this line of field of business that's big and, a big company to do a presentation here on the reservation for stylists. That excited me. That makes me realize how proud I am of how far I've come in my business. To be acknowledged like that, that's exciting. Going to know that I can make this happen. Right. I'm also teaching a student. I said, if I can't bring stylists in, I can start training, because I am an instructor by trade, and the state of Arizona is going to allow me to do teaching here in the business itself.
Wow, that's exciting, and congratulations. I think that's awesome to highlight your business in that way, and I think that people need to know that there's these opportunities out there. I think that because we don't have a good communications system, because many communities do lack internet access, a lot of people don't know that there's a successful business there that's struggling, not because there's not, that people don't want the service or the service isn't needed, but because of other issues that could be, like not having enough workers or not having the right supplies in place or the right supply chain or, the infrastructure. So I think that's really exciting, and congratulations. And we'll be looking out for that event. So
yeah, like I said, I'm optimistic. I know I've been in this business long enough to know that I believe in it and I love what I do, and I'm still standing behind a chair. And I told my employees, I'm almost 60. 3 months down the road, I will be. And I said, I better not be standing behind a chair when I'm 70.
Well, I know that Heather put out a call on the chat for any questions. Did we have any questions from the audience? You can put that in the chat, or you can raise your hand. And I'll keep an eye on to see if there's any questions. But let me go ahead and ask Abiegail if she has any last words to share with us.
I just would like to say to stay in touch with your council delegates and let them know about the business, what you're doing, because I am going to my chapter house and I'm carrying a draft resolution to them to support the local business within the community. So I'm going to my chapter house where I'm registered, and I'm taking a draft resolution because I want some money. I need plumbing service to get some of these plumbing service from the bathroom additions. So things like that you can do for yourself. I have asked my council delegate, came before my chapter officials that I am here, we are here. We're a Navajo-owned business. We like to compete for these contracts that are coming down the tunnel. So those are some of the things you can do. Look out for resources and keep going. And it's really hard to save at this time, but still do that on the side, because it's very important that we stay above on finances. So that's one of the things that I really stress is you have to be on top of your finances, your daily finances. You got to know what's coming in and what you're paying out. It's very important. They have to be written down. They have to be somewhere you can show it. It's just, if it's in the system, put it in the system. If you don't know how to do it, go ask someone that can help you with it. So I think I really stress the financial part, keeping your financial records to all the Navajo business owners.
Thank you, Abiegail. That's excellent advice. And I agree with you. Remember to keep in touch with your leaders, your local leaders and your council delegates, so that they are aware of your business, not just awareness of your business, but also the struggles that you have. And then keeping on top of your day-to-day cash flow is also definitely great advice for business owners. So yeah, thank you both Abiegail and Patricia for being with us today and for sharing your stories. We just want to remind everybody that we will be doing this again next Wednesday on December the 8th. So join us for the next COVID-19 Navajo Business Dialogue on our COVID-19 study and how it affected Navajo businesses. So yeah, thank you everybody for spending this hour with us and for sharing your thoughts and also participating in the study. If you were one of the participants, and please let us know if there's any questions you have or anything we should know in terms of your business and how you're operating. So I will go ahead and close with that. Yeah.
Thank you.